It's a story that sounds like it could be ripped from the pages of a Tom Clancy thriller novel. A huge cargo ship is found adrift in the middle of the ocean with no crew on board. The ship is carrying millions of dollars worth of electronics, but everything is completely untouched. There are even dinner plates sitting on the tables in the mess hall filled with food that is still hot. So where are the crew members? What happened to them? And what is this sinister secret that the government doesn't want us to know? A cargo ship has been found adrift in the middle of the Caribbean Sea without any crew on board. This suggested that someone had deliberately tried to cover up what had happened on the ship. But what could they be hiding? This is strange enough in and of itself, but when the authorities boarded the ship, they found that all of the crew cabins had been neatly organized, as if everyone had just gotten off the ship for the day. This suggested that whoever was responsible for the disappearance of the crew had not been interested in stealing the cargo. So what could they have wanted? But this was not the case. There was no sign of struggle anywhere on the ship. The exercise, which was called Balltops 22, involved several branches of the US military and was designed to simulate a large-scale conflict in the Caribbean Sea. They learned that the ship had left Brazil on schedule and had been sailing towards Haiti when it sent out a distress call. This is a common occurrence in the waters off the coast of Brazil and the Caribbean. However, this theory doesn't explain why the crew was unharmed or why the ship was left adrift in the ocean instead of being But now, the authorities had a lead to go on. This would explain why the crew was killed and why the cargo was left behind. However, there is no evidence to support this theory. According to reports, an investigation was launched, but no further details were ever released to the public. There have been similar cases in the past where ships have been found adrift at sea with their crews missing. In many of these cases, it was later revealed that the ships were carrying illegal substances such as drugs or weapons. The government has clearly tried to cover up what happened on this ship, and it is unlikely that they will release any more information to the public. However, this is just speculation, and there is no concrete evidence to support it. There are many conspiracy theories surrounding the case, but one of the most popular ones is that the ship was carrying a secret shipment of military equipment. This artifact was being transported from Brazil to Algeria for study, but it accidentally activated and caused the ship's systems to malfunction. The crew was either killed or taken hostage by the extraterrestrials, and the ship was left adrift in the ocean. This virus was being transported from Brazil to Algeria for testing purposes, but it accidentally leaked from the cargo hold and infected the crew. The government quickly quarantined the ship, and the crew members who survived were given experimental treatments to try to cure the virus. Also, please like and share this video if you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching. There is no evidence to support any of them, and they are likely just a product of people's imaginations running wild. This equipment was being transported from Brazil to Algeria, where it would be used in a top-secret military operation. However, the ship ran into trouble, and the crew was forced to abandon ship. The government quickly moved in to recover the cargo and prevent it from falling into the wrong hands. We don't know what the authorities found on the ship or what they believe happened to the crew, and we certainly don't know why the government is trying to cover it up. This route is not commonly traveled by cargo ships, and it is not clear why the ship would be traveling to this part of the world. Brazil is known for its production of soybeans and beef, while Algeria is known for its production of oil and gas. It is possible that the ship was carrying something sensitive that the government doesn't want to talk about. This would explain why the crew abandoned ship and why the cargo was left untouched. However, this theory doesn't explain why the crew would have tried to repair the engine or why they left so suddenly. They knew that the ship had encountered some kind of trouble at sea, but what had caused it to be abandoned? Why would they do that if there was nothing to hide? Is it possible that the ship was carrying something that the government doesn't want the public to know about? The message was garbled, but it was clear that the crew was in trouble. The captain reported that there was a problem with the ship's engine, and that they were taking on water. The ship was found adrift in the Caribbean Sea, which is a popular vacation spot for many people around the world. It's not clear why the ship would be in this area, especially since it was supposed to be docked in Haiti. Did the ship take a detour to avoid detection? Was it trying to avoid being tracked by the authorities? He also mentioned something about a storm, but the rest of the message was lost. Could there be a connection between the exercise and the disappearance of the ship and its crew? It was almost like the entire crew had just vanished into thin air, but as they searched the ship, they realized that this was not the case. They found lifeboats in the crew's quarters and personal belongings strewn about, suggesting that they had not had time to pack their things or prepare for leaving the ship. In fact, it was as though no one had been on the ship for weeks. But when the authorities checked the ship's log, they saw that the captain had signed off only 2 days prior. So how could the entire crew have vanished in just 2 days? And what could have caused a ship full of valuable cargo to simply be left abandoned in the middle of the Caribbean Sea? The ship was sailing from Brazil to Algeria when it was supposed to dock in Haiti for supplies, but the ship never arrived. In fact, no one had seen the ship or heard from it in weeks. It was as if it had simply disappeared into thin air. That was until a police boat spotted it floating off the coast of Puerto Rico. When they approached the ship, they realized that there were no crew members on deck. All of the crew cabins had been neatly organized, and there was food left on the plates in the mess hall. Some of it was still hot. At first, the authorities assumed that the crew had simply abandoned ship and that's why they didn't fight the police when they boarded the vessel. What's more, they found that the ship's computers had been wiped clean, and that all of the records had been destroyed. To make matters even stranger, the ship's cargo of electronics, which was worth millions of dollars, was completely untouched. The mystery deepened when the authorities learned that the ship had been scheduled for maintenance at the same time that a top-secret military exercise was taking place in the area. As the investigation continued, the authorities began to piece together the events leading up to the disappearance. After the distress call, the ship went silent. It was as if it had vanished into thin air. One of the most popular theories is that the ship was caught in a severe storm that caused the engine to break down and flood the ship. Another theory is that the ship was attacked by pirates. There is also a more sinister theory that the ship was involved in some kind of illegal activity, such as drug trafficking. Now, here's the thing. We can speculate that the ship was carrying contraband of some kind, but that's just a guess. What's really interesting is that the government seems to be doing everything it can to cover up what happened on this ship. For example, the ship was sailing from Brazil to Algeria. Here's another. These questions have been plaguing people who are interested in this case, but the truth is that we may never get the answers we're looking for. However, there are some people who are not giving up. Another popular conspiracy theory is that the ship was carrying a dangerous and contagious virus. Some people even believe that the ship was carrying something even more sinister, an alien artifact. While these conspiracy theories are certainly intriguing, they are just that, theories. What do you think happened to the cargo ship and its crew? Let me know in the comments below.